We're trying to get the live stream going as well. All right. Thank you for coming to Housing Horror Stories 2. These are important stories, and I just want to say on behalf of the Rent is Too Damn High Coalition, we're very grateful you're here. We're very excited to see your faces, and we're very excited to hear your stories. Yeah, all right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. So before I begin, I do want to give a land acknowledgement and just identify that Lansing occupies the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe, Three Fires Confederacy of Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi peoples. In particular, the city of Lansing and LCC reside on land ceded in the 1819 Treaty of Saginaw. So just give some props there. Let's see. This event, all right, well, let me check my notes, guys. Thank you. So I used to work in direct service for people experiencing or at risk of homelessness for about 3 years. And so this subject means quite a bit to me and a lot of the people that I love. So these stories are very important. And as we're here in this communal gathering, in this beautiful communal space, I want us to access our sense of community today and lift each other up, be supportive, and remind each other that it's our duty to fight for our rights. It's our duty to fight for housing and other rights that we are owed. In support of having a nice communal moment, if I could just have everyone bear with me and everybody just take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Thank you so much. So that is awesome. It's centering us. It's giving us even a better sense of community. And take a second and look around you at the fledge and how it's decorated, and look around you at the faces of the folks that are around you, and just ground yourself in this moment where we are accessing important things and we're accessing them together. All right. I'm just going to go a little forward and say that I do want to do a little bit more audience participation later. So I'm going to do a little bit of chanting. I hope you guys can do that with me. Yeah, thank you, Kyle. I also want to say that this event is important for a lot of reasons. It's important for us to tell the truth. Not everyone is out there telling the truth. It's important for us to participate in self-care, and sharing these stories is that self-care. And it's important for us to support each other and to make change. So I'm glad we can come together and do that here. So just a couple of bookkeeping things. If you would like to share a story up here or privately in our lovely venting machine, which is behind these doors, you can either share it publicly with the group or you can share it privately in the venting machine. And we want to hear your stories. We do have connection with legislators, state legislators, specifically Emily Devendorf, who we will be sharing stories if people are comfortable with that. And just real quick, could I get, by a show of hands, is anyone at this meeting not comfortable with sharing public? Is anyone comfortable sharing publicly but not comfortable sharing your story like on the internet or with legislators? Is anybody not comfortable with that? Okay, so we will share your stories. Is anybody who's doing the private share, is any of those folks not comfortable sharing that publicly? Okay, thank you so much. So without further ado, I would like to get started. I know some of the members of our Rent is Too Damn High Coalition have their own stories, so I was hoping Lamont might come up and read a story, but he looks to have disappeared. Oh, there you are. So we're just gonna kick it off. Thank you.
Hello. Definitely feel free to cut me off. This is a long story. My life has been riddled with housing stuff. So to start off, I was born in Baltimore, pretty lower class, borderline poverty line, but we made do, you know. And then gonna skip over some stuff, but things happen and 2008 crisis hits. My mom loses her job because she was pregnant. and we become homeless. A lot of my family just weren't around to help out around that time, and we needed to rely on the few connections we did have. And that is the reason that I'm in Michigan right now, because of community, because there were people in my life who were willing to host us. And after that point, I had thought that I was set. We had people here, we had community, and we were able to get off our feet. We ended up getting our own apartment. I was loving my school, making new friends, really integrating. I moved a lot in my life, so it felt good to finally sit down and kind of take that breath and know, like, I can plant my roots here. And then my apartment caught fire, and there was very little help there. If we Yeah, it was a rough situation. We lost basically everything and had to live out of a hotel for a week, really relying on anybody who could help out. I was lucky enough to have great teachers at my school. One of them gave me like a Visa gift card so we could eat for the time being. And then we were lucky enough to reach out to people in Cardboard Profits, and they helped us with the system to get into an LHC, scattered housing site. And it's like, okay, finally, our luck is up again. We have a place where we won't have to pay rent for a while. We can worry about just collecting ourselves. But LHC is not all that it is supposed to live up to. And it was probably one of the standout, most abusive situations I have had to live in. It was nearly impossible to get in contact with them ever. And this is prior to when they had their building burned down. Anytime we needed a maintenance request, we would contact them, wait a couple months, then they'd show up randomly and be upset with us that we didn't drop everything on the morning that they contacted us and said they would be there. And then, things continue to be rough. And my mom has to do what she has to do to feed us, and she was selling plasma. The head coordinator for LHC, or I think it might have actually been like our caseworker for them, he decides, you're not reporting that money, so we're going to evict you. Now my mom, who already trying to do anything she can, working a job, doing gig economy, selling plasma, and this person who is supposed to be here to help us, to get us out of this situation, is doing everything within his power to ensure that we can't get from underneath that boot. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. He just did everything within his power. He even tried going forward with a court date and not telling my mom, and she got her summons a little bit later. But luckily, she was really on top of it, ended up showing up, and the judge threw it out, because who knew you getting $50 every 2 weeks is not enough to be a warrant for eviction. And I mean, that was the worst thing that happened, but there was still appliances like an oven. We didn't have a working oven for over a year. And when their main headquarters burnt down, there was no communication. And in the midst of that, they decided they're going to sell off all these scattered housing sites. So now, not only do we have a broken oven, not only have we had to deal with this abusive person who's supposed to help us, but now we have to scramble to try to find information as to why is this happening? Are we safe? Are we going to be kicked out? Are we going to have to do this all over again? And thankfully, there was some more information that kind of trickled out, but it's still a situation where, once the developer comes in, fully, we don't know how the situation is going to change. And my mom still lives there. I might be out of the house right now, but I have a family there that I have to worry about, and I have to still help, because another aspect of LHC, you make too much money, they'll start charging you rent. So once you start digging yourself out of that hole, the hole starts getting deeper. So that's the situation that they're in now, and really I am too, because I can't just leave them. But I've been able to get into a better situation because of the people around me, because of my community, the wonderful people that I've been able to make connections with. And as much as I love community, people shouldn't have to just rely on that. That's why we put money, we have these fundings, we have taxes. All of this LHC could be so much better. it could truly empower people to have and live fulfilling lives. But instead, it is a temporary situation where you don't have to think about it for a couple minutes, but once you really start trying to get out of it, it's a process that is not easy. Yeah, I think that's it. Thanks for listening, y'all.
Thank you, Lamont, for your story and for the vulnerability. It's so important that we talk about these stories because we're not just talking about ourselves. We're talking about our loved ones, our moms, our grandmas, our aunts, our uncles, all of our friends. So thank you for that. And let me just real quick, when I say housing, you say justice. Housing. Justice. Housing. Justice. All right, awesome. So we're going to bring Erica up next. Could we have Erica come to the front? Hi.
Good evening. My name is Erica, and I'm happy to be here. And I have a lot of stories I could share, actually, but I'm going to focus on two. And I'm going to try to keep it as brief as possible. But if for any reason you're interested in speaking to me further about any of the details that I shared, or if you need some support walking through similar situations, you're more than welcome to reach out to me and we can talk more at length about them. I would say around 2015, I was making some poor choices in my life, and I had some people around me that were influencing me to make those poor choices. And I won't go into details about that right now, but I would say in late 2016, I realized I really needed to put some effort into making my life better. I didn't like what it had become. And so 2017 was the year that I was dedicated and committed to changing my life and, just making it better. And at that point in time, I was a homeowner and a single mom of two beautiful daughters that were homeschooled at that time. And I was working a lot and trying to make ends meet and trying to be a good mom. And it was really hard. Throughout the year of 2017, I continued to try to work really hard to make differences in my life. And also, like, the house that I owned needed some repairs, and I knew that, and I was working towards getting them fixed. I had the entire bathroom remodeled. Let's see, kind of skip through some details. And, things weren't really getting better for me towards the end of 2017. And one day in particular, I had a warrant for, so what had happened was there was a traffic issue, or I think it was like a headlight that was out on my car. And I wasn't able to pay that ticket as a single mom struggling to take care of my kids and stuff. So I eventually had a warrant and wasn't able to really take care of that. And like everything around my life was like crumbling to the ground. And I had already lost like my job at that point, and my car was totally broke down. I didn't know how I was going to get fixed. And I was on my way to like a new part-time job. It definitely wasn't going to pay. I mean, I had grown up bills. This was like a $12 an hour telemarketing thing that was going to give me some cash in my pocket, but it wasn't going to pay my bills. So it wasn't going to fix my problems, but it was like I just really didn't know what to do with my life at that point. So I was on my way to this job, and I got a call on my phone, and I didn't really recognize the number, but it was like, "This is the Lansing Police Department. We're at your house. Can you meet us here?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, that's actually not what's on the to-do list for today. So no, I can't. Like, I'm on the bus on my way to this place, and I'm already in the middle of a mile walk. Like, I'm not going to have you guys come pick me up. Like, I know that I have a warrant, and I know what's going to happen if I interact with the police on that day." So I found out later, or like actually at that moment, they told me that they had a subpoena to serve. So they came to my house to serve the subpoena, and my door was cracked open. My door was actually cracked open because it was a rough year for me. I had been admitted into an inpatient psychiatric facility, and a lady that I met at the facility, I had ran into her in the community, and she was like, it's a whole nother story. She was homeless and didn't have any place to go, and I was like, you can come stay with me for a few days or whatever. So I didn't want her to have like keys, so I was just locking the handle, and it was at this point that the lock to my doorknob stopped working. So my door was like cracked open, and it was locked, but it was cracked open because my doorknob was broken. And so when the police came to serve me a subpoena, no one was home. My door was cracked open. Instead of serving the subpoena and, moving on with their life and the other things they have to do, they thought that they would check on me and make sure that I was okay. And so they came into my house with their guns drawn and cleared every single room with their guns drawn. And during the midst of that procedure, they saw a hole in the mudroom, the back room of our house. Like I mentioned, I know that my house needed some repairs. The house that I owned, the house that I had lived in for 9 years. And I was working on that. The result of the police checking on me that day was the most thorough code inspection I've ever heard of, and $35,000 worth of repairs that I needed to make if I was going to stay in the house that I owned. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know why the code office chose to pick a struggling single mother that was doing her best to make her life better to do that thorough of an investigation on when there's tons of slumlords out here that they could harass. But I still really don't totally understand that. And so, I was homeless. I never did sleep in that house again. Ended up being sold, and I ended up in a homeless shelter as a homeowner. And I was very thankful for the time I spent at the City Rescue Mission. They helped me get into housing. So I live in a Lansing Housing Commission property right now. And for several years, I was very happy as a LHC tenant. I feel like they did a good job. I had a good relationship with the person that was in charge there, and that has definitely gone downhill. I have overcome addiction in my life, and the last addiction that I'm still really struggling with is marijuana. And it might sound funny to say that I have a marijuana addiction in a city with a rich, vibrant marijuana culture, which I appreciate very much. But nonetheless, it's true for me. So it's not a healthy choice. My marijuana addiction at the end of last year, I was using concentrates. And at one point I realized, what I'm really doing here is the equivalent of hard drugs. I'm not getting high, even though I'm smoking the most potent marijuana product there is available, and I'm not getting high. And I have a history with heroin. So my next step, really, if I want to, if I'm going to get high, is heroin. So one of the triggers that I have, and it might sound silly, but my neighbors smoke marijuana, and the smoke comes in my house 24 hours a day. Now, as a housing advocate and other roles in the community, I don't have a problem with my neighbors smoking marijuana. I actually believe they should be able to do that in their home. However, I should also be able to have a marijuana-free home if it's that bad for me and my personal issues that I have going on. And LHC is actually a no-smoking property, and I've been to their board meetings. I've sent an itemized list of the ways it was impacting my mental health, tempting me to make choices that are bad for me personally. And it's really an awful situation. And I don't know what to do about it because LHC doesn't care. They say they can't do anything about it. And my neighbor knows, they don't care. They can just go ahead and smoke in that non-smoking property. And again, I don't want to see my neighbors evicted, but I feel like, they talked about getting me a 504 because I do have like a lot of health concerns. But anyways, I think you guys get the gist of it, and I feel like I'm taking up a lot of time. So that's all for now. Thanks for letting me share. Have a good night.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Erica. That was very valuable to us, and we hope you'll stay in touch with the Rent is Too Damn High Coalition. So we're just going to go right on to our next person, which is Anthony. Can we get Anthony Rifke?
This is the first time I've ever stood in front of a microphone on a stage. Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Rifke. I moved to Lansing about 2 years ago. I was just looking for a new place to live, and I came here. I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about this wonderful city. I'm a communication student at Lansing Community College, and this is what I have to say about housing horror stories and the housing crisis. Now, there's one problem I have right now, and I don't think there's enough of the truth out there regarding the housing crisis and housing horror stories. I've only ever lived in 2 places on my own, but I don't believe it should be this difficult for a young man with as many skills, abilities, and talents like myself to find a place to live. I feel shuttered, I feel cloistered, and I feel unable to reach out for help for something as basic as a need. I dislike complaining a lot. And I'm really humbled by you guys inviting me to speak today. I will tell you the real horror. Landlords are more powerful than any protester. Landlords create alliances with each other. And it's just not fair. The landlords are more well-informed than any of us could ever be. They will grade each of us. They know what we are. They treat us like a commodity. And it's inappropriate. We have human needs. We have needs as a society, as a collective. And we are being commodified. We are being treated like a market object. We are being researched. We are being codified. Thank you. Thank you. We must drown out the landlord's bribery and lobbying with vehemently radical activism and protesting that reaches all audiences, with audiences that have open minds and open hearts, that know true unity. I hope the public remains informed against their captors. You are not a product. Your needs are not market needs. We are in solidarity. Exercise love and forgiveness. That is my gospel today.
Thank you, Anthony. That was awesome. I feel super fired up. I just want to mention real quick some themes I'm hearing in stories is the importance of treating humans as humans. And I'm also hearing that different institutions are aligning with each other. The institution of police, of arresting people, the institution of low-income housing commissions and the structures that exist around that are paying into for-profit landlords. So it's important that we're talking about this and learning about this, and it's important that we bring it back to action, like Anthony said. So next up, we have Caroline.
Here. All right. So I used to live at this building in town, this apartment building called Capitol Manor. It's on South Chestnut. And I don't live there anymore. I'm in a better situation, but this isn't really about me. Capitol Manor, I saw like several maintenance people quit in a rage. They like didn't pay them, and I don't think their working conditions were good at all. Nothing was ever working. The fire doors would be blocked or locked or stuck or closed. The fire alarms would go off all night. My fridge didn't work and my food would spoil, and the oven wouldn't work. Just like it wasn't great. But I paid my rent every month. And when it came to the end of the lease, when I wanted to move out, I gave them prior notice like you're supposed to. I gave them my forwarding address where they should send any mail to. And I got served with a summons because they wanted to sue me for non-payment of rent, for back rent that after I'd already moved out and given them notice. And actually, because they served the summons at my old address when they should have known, and actually I'm pretty sure they did know that I did not live there anymore and I would not see that summons. And I would see those pink slips on people's doors plenty there too. So finally, I was able to get the next one for my next court date because my mail got forwarded. And I made it to my court date, but their lawyer didn't. And so thankfully, it got dismissed in my favor. But I looked at some of the 54A Lansing District Court records, and I saw that they sue a lot of people, and they wind up getting the money by default if people don't show up. And they're bringing action against a lot of people in town. And this is also not a local company. This is a company called Rocco Real Estate that is headed in Bloomfield Hills. But they have properties across the country, and their whole deal in how they make money is they treat real estate investments as they buy low value properties and they don't take care of them, and they just kind of make passive income not doing anything but charging rent. And then they also, I think, because I think that suit against me was frivolous, and I see all these other lawsuits brought by them and similarly named companies, because they have a whole bunch of shell LLCs that are suing people around town. Some of the ones that are currently litigating people are Capitol Manor Lansing LLC and Rocco Stonecrest LLC, I believe, are some of their current names. But the one that was on my summons was different. It was, I believe, Rocco of Lansing 3 LLC, and there was a Rocco of Lansing 2 and several other Rocco of Lansing. I saw some that were Capitol Manor, either spelled with an O or an A. And I thought, maybe they're just messing up. Maybe it's just a silly typo, but I think that they are intentionally trying to confuse people. And I think that it's a really sick move for them to be, definitely taking advantage of people who they think can't afford legal help because of the kind of properties they're suing people at, but also that they're trying to intentionally confuse people, and that we don't know who these landlords actually are who might be bringing action against us in court, but they know who we are enough to try to sue. And why did they not have any responsibility in that contract, even though the landlord tenant contract as it is, you know, obviously in the landlord's favor because the landlord makes profit off of the tenant, but it's at least ideally supposed to be a contract. And if they're not maintaining properties to habitability standards and they're not even being transparent with their business practices, then they're not upholding their half of the contract. Oh, and one more thing. Sorry, this poster board that I've got. I'm just trying to collect the names, the different names of LLCs and different names of, you know, people involved with ROCO management and some of these other big slumlord companies, and just compiling them and writing them down, because I think that some of the problem is that they are using corporate structure and to, you know, and the legal system, and people not knowing how to get help against us. And if we at least know who is trying to bring up these lawsuits, I think. So I just wanted to make a list online. So if anybody has seen any different names for these companies, like on a summons that you got, you can send them to this address, or like if you just want to see the list, I'm putting this this website together. So yeah.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you, Caroline. So I just want to do a quick audience participation. Could I get a housing? Yeah, housing. All right. And I want to do like a more calm audience participation. So I got this from a documentary, which is two women who were experiencing housing instability. They were saying together, I think they were maybe sisters or friends, they were saying to each other, it is our responsibility to fight for our rights. So I'm hoping we can all do that together. Is that okay? All right. It is our responsibility to fight for our rights. All right, now instead of our rights, it's going to be housing. It's our responsibility to fight for housing. It's our responsibility to fight for our housing. All right, once more with a little more like, yeah. It is our responsibility to... All right, you guys got it. I missed it, but you guys got it. All right, thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate everyone sharing, and I love you all, and I'm so glad you're here. So now we're going to go to actually a submission from someone who is not here currently. So we're going to ask Dinah from the Rent is Too Dang High Coalition to read a share of a story from someone named Amber. All right, thank you.
Okay. Amber, I hope you're watching. This was a submission that we got through Facebook Messenger. So this is in her voice. Well, for starters, when I lived on Edgewood, not sure what the apartments are called now, but they used to be called Villas of Woodgate. I had a furnace with a crack in it that could have blown up my whole apartment. Management knew about it for years and didn't do anything about it until Consumers Energy came and looked at it. Also, when I lived in Briar Cliff Apartments, I had a 2-foot hole in my ceiling from the bathtub that was leaking, and they would not do anything about it for about 2 years. It was approximately 1.5 feet wide, and I had to live in fear of taking a shower in my own house that maybe the whole bathtub would fall through the ceiling. However, they took advantage of the fact that I had prior evictions, and they knew we wouldn't move because we had nowhere else to go. Because in Lansing, if you have an eviction, you're on a 7-year blacklist. So thank you, Amber, for submitting this and being brave enough to have it shared.
All right. All right. When I say housing, you say justice. Housing. Justice. Housing. Justice. Yeah, now you sound like a real community. That's really good right there. Okay, so we're going to ask Samantha Farmer to come up. And I just want to say something I forgot to mention earlier, which is in addition to the venting session, if at any point you feel stressed out or overwhelmed by the stories, there is a space downstairs, the purple room, 2 big red doors, if you want to go and have some quiet time. So Samantha, thank you so much.
Oh, there's people. Okay. Hi, my name is Sam. Hey. I work at a doctor's office. I fought hard to work there. Everybody always go back to school, do better with your life. I did. I fought addiction to get where I am. And I pay. I'm sorry. I paid $1,314 a month in rent. And I also fight depression. The day after I moved in my apartment, March 1st. Am I allowed to say where? I live in Town Square Apartments. Lansing Hunter Properties. March 2nd, I woke up to go to work because I'm damn good at what I do. So I like going. I woke up and I saw a cockroach. I'm thinking, really? I paid $1,314 a month. Why am I seeing a cockroach? Since then, it's gotten worse. I can't cook dinner for my daughter. I let them know several times that it's just getting worse. My battle with depression is getting worse. It's gotten so bad. They've called me in the office at work. Like, we love you. You're good at what you do, but we got to make sure the problem don't come here. What problem? I did everything I was supposed to. You know, I let them know. They spray. They never notified me. They come in. In fact, I recently got a hold of the Lansing Commissioner, somebody, and had the state come inspect my apartment because of the mold and the fact that my ceiling fell in on my bed and ruined my mattress now. It's bad. I have videos because I know they're gonna take me to court. I just wanted them to be honest with me. I've sent an email to an Andrew, one of the managers of the property. We're gonna fumigate. We're sending out these mass messages, so everybody has to leave the building from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. I'm like, yeah, we're getting somewhere. It never happened. That day that was supposed to happen, I went in there with their traps and put it on their desk. Here's your roaches. Do something about it. They said I threw them at them. The property manager made me feel like an idiot, like it's normal to live with all these roaches. My daughter has been sick. It's just unbelievable. I have people who don't want to come to my house. It's just silly, but it breaks my heart because I bought potato salad because I don't want to cook for my family. I'm in the middle of a huge weight loss journey, down 100 pounds. It stopped because I can't cook in my kitchen because there's roaches. I mean, I can't put my food in my cabinets. My poor daughter goes to pour a bowl of cereal and roaches crawl out. And they think it's okay. I'm not paying $1,314 a month when these roaches need to be paying rent. Something needs to be done. You can't give up. I also have put my money in escrow. They are making me feel like I can't do it, but we can. We're allowed to. We're allowed to live someplace safe. We're allowed to live somewhere where we're not infected with these things, you know, and they can't charge you that much and expect you to be okay with unwanted roommates. And since then, they cut off my amenities, which is my internet. I have an 11-year-old without internet. That's not good. I can't get into the workout room, even though I told them the day after I move in, I saw one. They have made me feel like an idiot, like it's normal. It's just something has to be done. Nobody should have to live like this.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's exactly the kinds of stories that can get lost sometimes. I know people who are less educated about housing think that housing looks like an older, disgruntled man with mental health problems, but housing instability and homelessness looks like mothers and children and grandmas and nephews and nieces and all of those people in between. So thank you again so much for sharing. Can we get another round of applause? So we have had a couple of folks who signed up to do a private session. Right now, we don't have any more submissions. So I was actually hoping to ask the audience, is there anyone else who feels inclined to maybe share something? And I also just wanted to, again, thank all of the people who have shared so far for being vulnerable. One last through line that I would really like to draw attention to is the fact that a lot of people, myself included in the past, when we're sharing stories, we're talking about instances where we don't necessarily know our rights, and then in addition to that, the system is pushing us to not be able to address them. So I think that as we move forward, I'm hoping that the Rent is Too Damn High Coalition can be a resource for some of those things to provide landlord-tenant guidelines and other information to folks. So at the very, very least, before we change the laws that really hold slumlords accountable, we can educate ourselves and lift each other up so we can prevent some of these traumas from happening before they happen. So with that, I don't know if Will, did you want to say a quick, so we just, yeah. We're going to bring Will up from the Rent is Too Damn High.
Hello. So again, if you feel moved or inspired to share, even if you have a short story, even if it's just, I pay more than I can actually afford, come up, you can share it, and then you can walk right back down. It might even be a sentence. We'd just love to hear from more people. But also say a couple things. First of all, the Rent is Too Damn High is having a major demonstration at the state capitol in September. Can someone tell me what date? September 5th. At what time? 12. Noon. Yes, thank you. If you have not already pledged to be there, we have flyers back there with QR codes. It'll take you right to the pledge form. You can pledge to be there. We have 590 people and counting who have already pledged to be there. They've said, I will be there. So that's real. I want to emphasize that's people who said, I will be there. That's not, I'm interested or send me some information about it. That's, I will be there. So if you pledge to be there, you can have that confidence knowing that 500 plus other people will be there shoulder to shoulder with you, and they can have that confidence knowing that you'll be there with them. That's how we do this. It's all about building that solidarity. So I just want to go over briefly the demands that we are putting forth, the policy solutions that we're advocating to our state lawmakers at this demonstration. And I want to begin with a question, which is, why is it that when your landlord raises your rent, you have to pay it or get out? Why is it that they can set the rent and you simply have to swallow it? Where are you going to go? That's a good question. What's the difference between you and them? We don't have rent control. And what's the difference between you and your landlord? lawful protections, but what is it that protects them and not you? They own the property. Thank you. They own, and you are forced to rent. And is that a moral category of people who have worth or value more than another? No. They own, you're forced to rent. That's a power relationship. That's a relationship of circumstance. It's inherited relationship in many cases. And some people get to benefit from that relationship, and the rest of us are stuck with it. And, you know, I said last time, it's a lot like the relationship also between the worker and the boss in the workplace. The owner of the business, they get to call the shots. The workers got to swallow it, unless you can afford to walk out. And it's the same with your housing. So people in our society, you know, they want to own. It makes sense that people want to own a house, because owning a house confers housing security, right? It means you don't just have a house now, but you have that security of knowing you're going to have a house next year, year after that, 5, 10 years in the future, as long as you can make your payment to the bank on your mortgage, which is actually a rent control arrangement that you have with the bank. And they've said, we're not going to raise your rent over the term of this fixed rate mortgage, right? But let me come to you with a proposition, which is that you should not have to own a home to enjoy housing security. That's a basic principle that we're here to insist on. We are not going to get to a society, should we even want that, where everybody is owning their own homes, unless we're actually redistributing all the land right now. We could talk about that. But as long as we have renters, we're going to need renters to have housing security. And the way housing security is that certainty of an affordable, accessible, safe, quality home that you're going to have in the future, right? And so this is why we're calling for rent control, because rent control is a policy that says you as a landlord cannot just arbitrarily hike rent year after year as much as you want simply because you own the property and your tenants don't. It says the amount that you can hike it is limited to some amount. And there's a process through which you can be held accountable legally if you hike above that amount. And in 1988, there was a push by organized renters and tenants in Detroit to pass this kind of rent control policy. And the state government said, oh no, we're not gonna let you do that. In Detroit, we're especially not gonna let you do that. And so they passed, it's called a preemption law. It says no municipality in the state of Michigan, no city or county can even consider a rent control policy. The state has said rent control is illegal. And so we say that's messed up. And what we're demanding right now with the Rent is Too Damn High Coalition, which includes over 18 at this point groups from Lansing and around the state, there's lots of people taking up this cause, is to end that ban on rent control so that we can take up that issue here in Lansing and around the state. Are we in support of that? But I'll tell you what they're going to say. I'll tell you what the big corporate landlords and the property managers, they're going to say, and they're saying it already, when we start talking about rent control. They say, if you do rent control, we will not invest. We will not invest in maintaining the properties, and we will not invest in building any new rental properties. And you know what? They might actually be right about that. And let me tell you why. Because they're not actually in it for providing housing security or quality housing to renters. They're not in it for that reason. They're in it to deliver a profit for themselves and for their capital investors. Their capital investors might be from any part of the world. They might be from Miami. They might be from Bloomington Hills. They might be from Texas. They might be from Germany. They could literally be from anywhere. And they demand not just that your housing project break even, but they're demanding like 10 or 15% every year in profit that they can take home. So I just want to really underscore this, because this is a really important point about how housing is built and financed. When they say rent control will make these properties unprofitable, what they are not saying is that we won't be able to break even. What they're saying is that we can't break even and then deliver 15% to our private equity investors. And if we can't promise 15%, then our investors are going to walk away. and we're not even going to be able to get these places built. And when they say that, they're actually telling the truth. That's how a lot of this system works, right? So it's actually critically important to understand that the private market is never going to be able to deliver the amount of affordable, accessible, stable housing that we all need, and especially the poorest folks among us desperately, desperately need. But the only way you can even contemplate it is by just like literally throwing money at private developers to try to build affordable housing. This is what we do with the LIHTC program, where it's just like, okay, yeah, we know it's unaffordable to house poor people, so we're just going to give you millions and millions of dollars and hopefully you'll keep building. But is that how we want to do things? No. We're just pushing more money at them so that they can take home those profits that they didn't actually deserve in the first place. So instead, we want to put an alternative, and this is our second demand, is for social housing. Yeah, clap up for social housing. Social housing is really gaining steam around the country among renters who are looking for an alternative from dependence on the private rental market and are facing the same challenges we are. In Michigan, we face a shortage of maybe National Low-Income Housing Coalition says 190,000 affordable units in the state that we just don't have and we need to build. Even MISHDA, which is the State Housing Finance Agency, has said that we need to build 75,000 new units over the next 5 years. In the next 5 years, that's not a lot of time. But we want to see this be social housing, which is to say it's publicly owned, it's mixed income, and it's rent stabilized. Publicly owned, mixed income, rent stabilized. So what that means is that unlike the private sector, which has to be delivering those windfall profits to the private equity investors, when it's publicly owned, you can operate it on a break-even and maintenance basis. You don't have to be delivering huge windfalls because the government isn't demanding a windfall in a public sector balance sheet. You just need to be able to break even. So the financials on the project totally change. And what this means is that then you can build mixed income housing where you have a range of people who are very low income to people who are moderate income or even above 50% in some cases, but they're there to pay market rent. And the very low income people are there to pay an adjusted affordable rent. And what happens is that the high end helps pay for the low end. And you can make the projects pay for themselves on a more sustainable basis. And then the third principle is rent stabilized, which is all of those units, whether they start as market units or as affordable units, are rent controlled because we want rent control. And when you're doing this in the public sector and you're not having to deliver those windfall profits, you can more confidently deliver rent control to your tenants and still have the projects pay for themselves and be able to maintain themselves over time. So that's what we're demanding when we talk about social housing. I'm almost done. And so I would just be remiss not to mention co-op housing, which fits kind of within our vision of social housing on an extended basis. Co-op housing is that which is neither owned by private landlords nor owned by public agency, but cooperatively among a group of individuals who pool their equity and can go in to buy and manage a property together. Last but not least, our third demand is for housing first programs for people who are unhoused. And these are programs that respond to homelessness by, shocker, housing people, not by criminalizing them or pathologizing them or saying, oh, maybe if you get this and that and this and that in place, then you'll be able to work yourself up to having a home. No, the first thing that homeless people need if they are unhoused is they need a roof over their heads and they need a home to call their own. Everything else can follow from there. So when we say housing first, that's what we mean. We're talking about that approach to dealing with people who are currently unhoused. We support that? Great. So last thing, we've got their attention at their capital. We got 590 people pledged to be there. I just want you to know 450 of those people are from the Lansing area. 350 of those are from the city of Lansing. And that does not happen every week, every month, or every year. The fact that Lansing, the capital region, is showing out so hard is really going to get their attention. It's already getting their attention. We're seeing elected officials start to tune in, and we just need to keep doing the right things, spreading the word, building solidarity between now and September 5th, and then after that. And I really do believe that over the next year, we're going to see movement and we're going to have the opportunity to fight for wins that matter in the legislature. So I'm really excited to be a part of all that with you. We have an amazing team of volunteers who have gotten involved in The Rent is Too Damn High, both from organizations and individuals who just showed up to this space, who have been doing incredible work to spread the word. Ross, I believe, has passed around or is about to pass around these volunteer sign-up sheets, Ross and Sarah. And we've just got a number of different ways to be involved in the next 6 weeks leading up to September 5th. This operation is growing. Every time we have a meeting, it's bigger than the last one. So you all are so welcome here. We love to have people coming out who are sharing things about the housing system that we haven't even heard yet. The reality is that we're all getting radicalized around the situation, grounded in our own experience. It's not hard to figure out the process of looking for housing and then struggling to stay in it. It's not right. We don't deserve it. We deserve so much better. So I just really appreciate all of you. And we're going to fight. And I think we're actually going to stand a chance of winning some of this stuff. But it only happens if we build power. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Thanks for being such a thought leader and helping us all understand things. I'm personally very excited about social housing. Taking the profit out of housing just seems like a great flipping idea. So I am happy to say that we do have one more person who volunteered. It's our own Rent is Too Damn High Coalition member, Simone. So I'm going to pass it over to them, and then we'll say a quick goodbye. Please sign up if you can to volunteer. And again, could we all just give ourselves a round of applause for coming here?
Thank you, my dude. Thank you. What's up, guys? I know some of you already know me. You have heard my story before. I would just like to share it again because sometimes I've been hearing a lot of folks telling me like, yeah, but I don't live in Lansing, so I don't guess like my stories don't really matter. And I'm trying to tell them, no, this is something that is happening nationally. So let's say that Lansing is able to pass legislation that actually changes things in Michigan. We will be one of the first states to actually like set for pretty much like show the rest of the country how these things have to be done, because this is happening everywhere. Now, I come from New Mexico. I was living in New Mexico after that I moved out from New York City. So obviously, moving out from New York City and going to New Mexico, I was like living the, the rich life. I was just like, just spending, and I was like splurging and all that stuff. I was there for a while, but obviously there is a bunch of expenses that I wasn't really thinking of. Like, for example, getting a car. Coming from New York City, I was like, I'm just gonna choose the apartments closer to where I'm gonna be working, and I'm just gonna walk there or bike. Well, it's New Mexico. There are cities that are meant to have a car. They're not walkable cities. They're just not that friendly. So obviously now I have an expense that I wasn't really thinking about, which discombobulated me completely. I started being like more mindful of everything, of like what I was spending. So I was like living paycheck to paycheck kind of thing. There was other things that came into my life that I actually have to like take care of. So, emergencies happened. But being in that apartment, I always had a problem with mold. And this apartment always had it. And I talked to so many times with the people to actually fix it. They will fix anything in the house, but that one problem. I kind of like ignore it. At that point, like I would just clean it, like I would put mask and I just clean it. I just don't want to deal with this. My year came to an end, and it was time for me to move on and go somewhere else. At this point, I wasn't really thinking to come here back to coming to Michigan. And I was trying to see if I could do it month to month. Well, at that time, I was paying around $800 a month for an apartment. It was a little bit less before, but it doesn't matter. They kind of like raised the rent like in mid-year, but I wasn't really thinking about it. I didn't care. But it came to the point where I was asking them, hey, am I going to move out? But I don't want to sign a new contract. And they were like, no, but then you have to sign the new contract in order to be like housed here. And I was like, but I don't want to. And I was like, if you sign the new contract, you're going to have to pay $150 more. So now we're talking that my rent went from $800 to $950. And I was like, not even my job has given me a raise. Like, what's going on with this? And they were like, but you can do it for 6 months or do it month to month. And I'm like, well, I will do month to month then. And they were like, okay, so now you're going to have to pay market price. That now the $800 apartment is now $1,200. And you have to pay a penalty for not doing a whole entire contract of $150. At that point, I was like, screw you guys. I'm not going home because I didn't have one. So I just went and stayed with one of my friends. But yeah, I completely got priced out. And this is happening in New Mexico. This is happening in other cities, and it's happening here. So it is just, this is a national problem. And the only way that we're going to be able to fix this, or at least get some type of change, is like if we all unite, because they're not going to do it for us. We have to all unite as a community and actually fight for the rights, not to party, but at least for housing, right? So, hey guys, so that was my story. Thank you so much for being here. You guys are precious. Thank you so much for your stories, and into the next one, okay? And remember, when are we gonna have it? September, at what time? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Simone. So as we're starting to wrap things up, I want to bring it back to the audience participation. And I just want us to say one more time, I have to fix one of the words, though. I messed up one of the words before. It's not responsibility, it's duty. So it is our duty to fight for our rights. Is that okay? Can we do that real quick? All right, so all together, it is our duty to fight for our rights. Once more, it is our duty to fight for our rights. All right, so let's do a slightly more fun one. So I'm going to say, the rent is, and then you're going to say, too damn high. All right, how's that? All right, the rent is. Too damn high. The rent is. Too damn high. All right, and we're going to make some changes to that. So come out on September 5th at noon. Thank you so much. The rent is too damn high. The rent is too damn high. The rent is too damn high. All right, looks like Ross has something important to say, you guys. Let's give it up for Ross.
Okay, a couple of things. So those sign-up sheets that Sarah and I just passed out, if you can take a minute or two and just fill them out right now, if you can. We are going to come back and collect them in just like 1 minute. So please do that if you can. And I have a question. Oh. Yes, thank you for catching that. I am sorry for the misprint. It is, August 4th, I believe. Should be the right date. Yeah, August 4th. I think it starts Thursday, August 2nd, and runs through August 4th. Okay. I am very sorry. So it is Saturday the 5th that we will be out there. So if you want to make that correction on your sheets, if you're interested in going, Saturday, August 5th, 5 to 7 p.m. Jazz Fest in Old Town. We'll be getting some pledge signups. And I also wanted to make one announcement about an event that one of our endorsing organizations is having. We're having a canvas tomorrow with We the People, who is working specifically on the rent control piece. at 823 Westmoreland. Believe it starts at 6 to 7:30 p.m. We'll be canvassing that neighborhood, talking to people in the community about rent control. So if you're interested, you can talk to me about it, or also Ricky, if you could raise your hand. We'll be hosting, so you can ask her questions about it if you would like to. So thank you.
I just want to say one more time, your stories are important, and we are very grateful at the Rents is Too Damn High for you to share them with us. And we hope to do work with your stories, and we hope you come back to the Rents is Too Damn High Coalition and continue this conversation and think of us as a resource. Thank you.